Welcome to Comic Shop News. I'm Dan. Today we're going to be doing the sequel to The Collector called The Collection. This movie is almost as good as The Collector. My one problem with it, where I kind of downgraded a little bit from the last movie, is that it kind of became more of what I thought the first wasn't, which was a Saw ripoff, where this had more of the death traps and elaborate Rube Goldberg contraptions. And, I mean, it made up for it with the gore content. This was also more of a torture porn movie with the way his lair was set up. The movie starts out with introducing us to the character Elena as a kid and an experience she had with her father where there was an accident. And we jump forward years and we meet the older Elena, and her boyfriend calls and he's breaking a date with her. So her other friend calls and she goes to a party that's at this warehouse. They go there and she sees her boyfriend with another girl, gets upset and punches him and wanders off. And as she does, she walks into this room where the trunk that we saw a ton of with from The Collector Part 1. And as she opens it, Arkin comes popping out, and thus setting off one of the longest trap setups that I think I've seen in a movie, where it was just piece after piece after piece, and becomes one of the bloodiest rave scenes since Blade 1, where this Thresher comes down and just annihilates the crowd. It is a gory-ass scene and goes on for actually quite a bit. Arkin ends up leaving Elena and grabbing a body and jumping out the window and using the body to take the brunt of the fall, jumping onto a car. We see more carnage, and the Collector just his traps annihilating people. Elena gets taken. We end up fast forwarding and Arkin is waking up in a hospital bed, and Lisa, his girlfriend slash wife, I don't think they ever said exactly what she was to him, is there, and there's a card saying, I can't wait to meet your family. And he tells Lisa that she needs to go. Don't tell anybody where she's going. Just go to her mother's, pick up, get everything, just go. She's upset. And from there we meet Lucello, who works for Elena's father, and he is pretty much the private security. And he wants Arkin to help him get her back. So from there we move on. Arkin, in the trunk, managed to gauge where all the turns were by marking his arm and making note of where they turned, what speed they were going. Something that you always do when you're locked in a trunk. There is some ludicrous things in this movie, but I don't want to take away from what the movie is. So Lucello has a team of, I don't know if they're mercenaries. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but he gathers them up, makes Arkin go with them. And the Collector's lair, you really get into, that he is really an entomologist. He's got spiders and all kinds of different insects. There's things pinned to the wall. It's almost like a museum. And from there, and this is another thing that I'll say is a gripe of mine, and this is me saying it's a gripe, but I like this movie. Whereas the first movie was a lot of cat and mouse, this one isn't so much that, it's just surviving the traps. And yeah, we still have an ill-tempered Collector. He is a little bit more vicious, it seems, in this. Not as much hands-on. He also has all these people trapped that he's been messing with and experimenting. Like, it's almost like a zombie outbreak at a point where he lets all of them out of their cages and off their chains, and they start attacking the crew. And the crew Arkin's with are basically wasting their ammo killing these people. We also learn that Elena, from an accident when she was little, she's partially deaf, has a hearing aid, and this ends up playing into a little bit later with some of a person who's wandering around the collector's lair who then says she's weak and can't survive. One by one, we're picking off the crew Arkin's running with Lucello. Some rather gruesome, some rather not. They don't trust Arkin, and, of course, Arkin's always been kind of a runner and a loner. So we have that going on as well. What I will say really, really stands out for me is Lucello, near the end of the movie, has this knife fight with the Collector that is pretty intense and awesome, because the Collector has found Arkin and started beating him down, and as well as Elena, and I forget what the female operative who was running with them. He kills her with the knife. Arkin's been knocked down, and Lucello walks in with one of the Collector's dog's heads and slams it on the ground, and then pulls the knife out of the girl's neck and has the knife fight. It goes on for a bit. He gives as good as he gets. Arkin gets into it, and there is this gruesome scene where he is tangling with the Collector, and the Collector shoves a knife right through the skin of his mouth here, right through the other side. Gives him a nice Joker smile, I guess. The fight goes on, and we get a good shot of him throwing the Collector down into this garbage chute where there's gasoline and throwing fire down. They do the slowdown of the building going on fire and Arkin kind of trapped in the flames, and Elena making the decision to bust one of the Collector's cases and making the water spill out to put out some of the fire as the cops and the SWAT team and fire emergency are trying to get this door open. Also, I have to shout out, there's a scene with one of the bodies. I don't know if it's from the club or not. He has the person splayed out like how you'd pin a butterfly to a board, and has their entrails kind of spread out. Strangely, fascinatingly beautiful, and that might make me sound creepy there. It's an interesting shot and scene, and it kind of adds to the mystery of what's this guy's deal. After the fire, they're out. The medics have been treating them. Elena's father comes up, and there's a nice scene with him hugging her and, looking at Arkin for helping his baby girl. And then they show all the bodies they've pulled out so far, and Arkin looks, and there's a burned mask, but he doesn't see the body of the Collector. So I'm going to save the scene showing it and after I say my goodbyes on this, because I want you to see everything with the audio dialogue and everything, because whatever quibbles I had with the movie, this end scene makes up for the whole damn movie. This is possibly one of the best scenes in a horror movie to end a movie, and it is a great finish to this arc of Arkin, where, with the way this ends, I never need to see another Collector movie. I don't. I feel it wrapped up the arc, it wraps up the story. I can never decide if the story is really about Arkin or if it's about the Collector, or possibly about both. But I also feel, as many people have said, they want sequels to this, and I don't think we need any more. This is a perfect 1-2 done, and I really feel it needs to stay this way. I don't feel the movie is as well shot and framed as the first one. There are some great scenes in this. but not as good. The audio tracks in it are pretty good. The pacing can be off in some scenes that, to be honest, I didn't love. But in some of those scenes where it slowed down a bit, you had some of the goriest scenes, so it kind of balances out in its own weird way. I recommend this highly. Where I had the Collector at about a 4, this is 3.5 to 4. Again, like I said, the ending makes up for everything wrong with this movie that I found. And Josh Stewart is he's brilliant. Like, he's this hero that doesn't want to be a hero, put into this unreal situation where it all started just because he needed to get his girlfriend's loan sharks paid off. And honestly, he didn't really look like he wanted to pull that job in the first movie. But it happened, he got involved, and he ends up becoming one of the great protagonists in a horror series where he's kind of a scumbag, but you really dig him. And also, if you haven't watched the newest season of Punisher, Josh Stewart's in it, and he is playing John Pilgrim, and keeps up that same intensity that you see in this movie, and he is the highlight of that damn season 2, because it kind of slowed down quite a bit from the first one. But that's a whole other story, not to do the Conan thing. So watch these movies, watch them in succession. Again, the collection's a little harder to see because it's not on any streaming right now, so you'd either have to go through Netflix disc service or rent it. Or I bought the Blu-ray from Best Buy for like $10, and it comes with a digital copy. So that might be the best way to go. I do recommend owning them because it's totally worth owning these 2 movies. So with that, I want to thank everybody for taking the time and watching this. Comment, subscribe, share. Also, I want to take a moment to comment on the passing of John Carl Buechler, which, if you aren't in the horror community, you might not know the name, but you might know some of the movies. He was a special effects guy who later went on to do directing. I think most famously he directed Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, which famously also the MPAA completely destroyed with having them cut so much out of it to get the rating it got. And weirdly, I guess there is so much footage that got cut that they still haven't released or made an uncut version of. He also, if you've watched the special features from Halloween 4, he was doing the effects on it, and he comments how Mustafa Akkad was screaming more blood after telling him this isn't a Friday the 13th movie. We are not about gore, not about blood. Interesting dude, big person in the horror community, and just always seemed like a cool dude from all the special features. He recently passed from cancer, and I felt I'd be remiss without discussing it and mentioning him, because he was one of the greats. He just was behind the camera, behind the scenes, did all these scenes that people love, but maybe didn't get the credit that he deserved because he was a behind the scenes guy. Well, with that, I'm going to bid you adieu, and we're going to go right to that end scene, so take care.
We haven't seen anything like this since the late 60s, and it was at those Bowery murders, do you remember? Oh, yeah. father went crazy from ingesting all those chemicals from taxidermy, slaughtered his whole family, and sat them at the Thanksgiving table. Well, not the whole family. I believe the little boy.
All those insects? You're quite the collector. In a 200-mile radius from where we last saw each other, there are 14 licensed entomologists. And you were number 12. Your daddy ran a museum, didn't he? Fucked you up real good. Turn around. Turn around.
Are you here to kill me?
That'd be too nice. First, I'm gonna make you feel everything that I felt. And then I'm gonna kill you. So that you can never hurt anyone.